Today, we're going to be talking about part 2 of financial faith. And if you haven't seen part 1, a couple of the highlights, I wanted to go back earlier in my career when I didn't have the faith that financially things were going to work out. And I told a story that was probably the first story where I truly believed that God had my back and that if I had faith and certain belief system, that I would never worry about money again. And that story happened back in 2007, somewhere there. Now I'm going to flash forward in a second business enterprise that I went into. Just because you have financial faith doesn't mean you're not going to be tested again. And just because you come to a place where you believe you're never going to worry again, it doesn't mean that worry doesn't set back in, or anxiety or frustration. It doesn't mean that you're never going to be tested just because you come to a higher level of your belief. There's we talk about this in our business, that you surge, you explode, and you plateau. You surge, you explode, you plateau. And the idea is that you're constantly reaching a new level of the mountain. However, there's still a plateau that happens and a new resurgence in you, and that deepening of the faith that needs to happen in you to get to the next level. So I told the story in part 1, and if you haven't seen it, I would recommend going to that one first. But these next 2 stories are the next 2 times I was severely tested. And I just wanted to share the story. We believe that leadership is caught, not taught. So instead of giving you, here's 7 points or here's 6 points, sometimes these stories help to resonate so that you might be going through something just like this as well. I remember in 2011, I had made a shift and started a new business and went into a new agency, and it was a startup, and it was at the very beginning stages of building my business. And the previous organization I had been with was an established organization, even though I was new into it. The second one was a new organization, and I didn't have this level of experience starting a new business and being there. And it's both wildly exciting and amazing stories, but a roller coaster, to say the least. That some days you feel like you're a rock star and you're taking over the world, and there's other days you feel like you're a loser and that nobody's going to do business with you, nobody's going to buy from you, everything's going to fall apart. And the stress and the anxiety, you're constantly looking for positive distractions throughout to make sure that you could continue on. So I remember it was around 2012, I believe, and I had a gentleman on my team, and he called me and he said, "Hey, I need you to do this appointment." And it was at a time where I was getting a lot of attention and recognition for some of the growth. But a lot of times before you've really made it, you have this false sense of security where you're getting paid in recognition instead of money, or you're making a little bit of money, but the expectation is you're supposed to be making a lot, or your friends and family think you're doing a lot better than you're really doing. And it's not because you're lying to them, but because of how confident you are. They assume that you have to be so much more successful than you really are. There's no way that you're talking the way you're talking, walking the way you're walking, and just lighting up the world, and you're only making that? Are you kidding me? And if you've ever been an entrepreneur, if you are one right now, you probably know what I'm talking about. Your confidence has to precede the money. You have to be walking, talking, and acting. Not. I know we say these phrases like "fake it till you make it," and I guess maybe it even falls under the umbrella of faking it till you make it, but it's not fake. The belief is so strong and so real that just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't make you fake. It means that you believe, and you have to have this high level of belief in order to make it happen in the real world. And so otherwise, nobody's going to want to do business with you. This gentleman calls me and he says, "Hey, can you do this appointment?" And at this time, I needed any appointment that I could get. I needed any customer that I could get, and I needed to just survive another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And this individual ended up doing the biggest piece of business that I had ever done. And it was a very humble family, very humble. And I'll never forget assuming this family had come into some wealth. All right. And if you looked at the family and where they lived and how they were living, you would say there's no way this family has any money. But they didn't want their friends and family to know that they had come across this money, and they were trusting me because somebody that was a family member of theirs said, "This guy Jason could take care of you." And so I get referred in with a high level of trust. I don't know them, but they trusted me with over $1 million of their dollars. And that was like, whoa. And it was the first time somebody had ever written me $1 million check to do business. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And I had to walk and talk and act like this is something that I did every day. But inside, I was super excited. And I was wondering, first, I want you to know something. I thought it was a joke. My team had played jokes on me before. And sometimes it's not funny to play a joke on people with customers and business and money, but it actually had crossed my mind. Is my office playing a joke? And I'm kind of looking around for like, is there somebody that's going to jump out and say, of course that's not happening. By the way, sometimes you need to use humor to get over the hump when you're stressed out a lot. But anyways, I realized it wasn't a joke. And I saw the sincerity of the family, and I felt the spirit in the room. And so this family does business. Well, I leave. And I'm excited. And the best part is it's not just the money and the commissions. The individual that had taken me to this appointment, this particular sale, this appointment, this is where the individual that referred me, who was going to get 50% of the commissions, had no idea how much money we made. The person just trusted, and it was their first sale. So for me, I was a veteran in the industry. For the trainee, it was their first transaction. And I remember looking at the person, and the person was so excited, and they were emotional. And it was a younger individual. And I remember looking at the person, I said, "What are you so emotional?" And the person said, "I'm just so excited that we helped the family. This is somebody that I love, and they trusted me, and I trusted you, and you went in and you did the right thing. Oh, I'm so excited." And I said, "Awesome." Now, in my experience, trainees in this regard, they'll ask questions like, well, do you know, like, how much did I make and how do I get paid? And that's usually what the person asks, and they weren't asking this. And so I was curious, and I said, "Hey, do you know how much we make, or how much this is going to compensate you for your efforts? Because we're in business." And the person was like, "Oh my gosh, I maybe $500. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this person has no idea." And I told the young individual how much money they were making from the transaction. And all of a sudden there was tears. Just tears are flying. If you've ever been in a spot where you weren't expecting a blessing and God blesses you through something and you weren't expecting it, and there was just a ton of tears. And it was a little bit more tears than I thought. And I said, "What's the problem?" And the person said, "You have no idea. This is going to save our apartment, my family, my mom, my sister, and everything." And it was like a very emotional experience. And I was just overtaken with joy and happiness inside that our efforts, I thought it was just for the money and for the bills and for the office that we needed to pay for, but it ended up being something so much more. And that blessing was amazing until a couple days later. Because everything has turns. Remember, I told you it was a roller coaster. This isn't the teacups at Disneyland. This is Six Flags. You're up and down, up and down, up and down. And I remember I'm driving on a Southern California freeway. It was a beautiful day. And I'm fired up because in a week or two, I have a big commission coming. I got momentum. I feel like things are going in the right direction. And our compliance officer calls me and says, "Jason, I don't know if you know, but the check canceled." And I was like, "I want you to know something, because this is person that's not somebody that jokes. I sincerely believed I was going to drive my car off the freeway. And I'm not saying that I'm not even going there. Like, that was not my desire, but my brain was like, and I thought that I was just going to go off I was on this windy freeway road, and I thought I was going to go off to the side of the freeway. And then I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they said the person went to the bank, and the bank representative talked them out of doing it, and all this stuff happened. And I want you to know that what was once the greatest day became the worst day. And I've never felt, it was one of my top 3 moments of having anxiety in my stomach that my world and my life was going to fall apart, happened on that phone call. And I was so upset that I got the phone call. I was like, could you at least have given the news a little bit softer and a little bit better? But here's the great thing that took place. I stressed, I worried, I was frustrated. And the worst part is the person on the other end, and this happens in life. Just remember, this is my story, but your story, you could replace these characters, and you've probably experienced something just like this. That was a thief of joy right there. That was a work of the devil. This is an individual. I'm not calling the other person the devil. I'm saying that the devil used this person to rob us of our joy, of our passion. And I wasn't even thinking about my commissions at this point. I was thinking of that young associate who told me that this was going to save their apartment and save their family. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, not only am I going to get affected, but it just is one of the best stories, just became one of the worst stories. And for about 7 to 14 days, it was a really, really, really tough situation. And I played with my mind, and it challenged my faith. It definitely challenged my faith. And I had faith, I had belief, but it was one of those situations where you're like, come on, man. I mean, what else? I mean, do I have to go through something like this again? And I got the original gentleman that gave me the appointment, that trusted me with the appointment. I called that person back and I said, I need backup. I need help, because sometimes when things aren't going your way, you need to recruit another person in to help you in that situation. It may be to help you think properly, even speak properly, act properly, or you just may need support. You may need a comforter, like what the Holy Spirit gives us, but there's individuals that the Holy Spirit uses to comfort us in these moments. And so I needed the money and the comforting, okay, and I needed help. And the individual went back in there and helped save the deal. And we ended up getting the deal, and the person was happy. And guess what? Later on, the investments that they had done with the other person, okay, ended up losing money, charging them fees. Everything was bad. And the situation that they did with us, that $1 million they did with us, continued to grow and thrive. And it was a great product. But today isn't about financial advice. It was a story about faith. And I both had the best day, then the worst day, and it turned out to be the best day again after the worst day. So remember, things always turn out good in the end. And if things aren't good, it's not the end. And so that was that story I wanted to give you. And the next one, a little bit faster, was a couple years after that, I expanded my business to Dallas. And so I had always operated in Southern California. And the first 30 years of my life, I was in Southern California, in the greater Los Angeles area, Ventura County, Orange counties. These were the areas that I'm from. Went to USC. My brothers went to San Diego State. So between Los Angeles and San Diego was just kind of where I grew up and where I knew. But now I'm going into an uncharted area. And we were recruited to bring our headquarters over to Dallas. And so I come to Dallas, and I was the first to bring our company there, and there was nobody in our organization. And I'll never forget a joke that my CEO made to me at the time. And he said, hey, listen, when you go out there, I want you to know, if you don't make it, don't call us back, because we don't have any resources. You just need to go make it happen. And I was trusted to bring our organization to a place where we would bring our headquarters. And there was a lot of faith put behind me. And there was days that I felt like that was the best decision. Like trusting me, yes, I'm that guy. And then there was days I was like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could make this happen. I'm in a new market. I don't know anybody. I'm not even very good at marketing. I'm an operations person. I'm a leader, but I'm not somebody that's going to go out there and market myself. And I was put into an uncomfortable position right away. I brought both of my brothers. I brought my single mom. We came here, and I remember it was hard. Every day was hard. I wouldn't wish that first year on anybody. I was working my tail off. We had some decent successes, but about like 4, 5, 6 months in, I'm starting to see, I don't know how this is all going to add up. I don't know how I'm going to pay for my house, pay for my office. I had actually pulled money out of my life insurance policy in order to fund my office. I had nothing. I had no money financially. I'm doing presentations like I'm the leader of the free world, and I'm going home like I have no TV. I have no couch. I have no food in the refrigerator, and part of that was designed. And there's a tip that I'll give you. The home has 3 enemies. Okay, your home has 3 enemies. An enemy number 1 is your television. An enemy number 2 is your couch or your bed, and enemy number 3 is your food and your refrigerator. And I know that these are all things that we enjoy, but they're also things that cause us to be complacent. And it could cause us to just relax and want to be there. So we kind of made a rule. I had associates living with me in my house, and we were trying to make that first year happen where everything sunrise to sunset, we had to be working. There was no TV or movies or anything like that. There was no hanging out. There's no drinking. There's no partying, nothing. It was like, go to work, go to sleep, go to work, go to sleep, go to work, go to sleep. And that's the life of an entrepreneur in the beginning stages, but that's not the life of an entrepreneur long-term. And if it is the life of an entrepreneur long-term, either A, that person hasn't yet put their belief in their belief system and faith in God, because God will show you a way and get you out of that situation. Or B, the person hasn't learned to trust or implement systems or work, or maybe they don't have work ethic. And so I knew I had the work ethic. I knew my business. I knew my words. I just needed to be blessed. And so the second blessing came at a really tough time too. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I was putting on a face every day of confidence, but I had a lot of fear. I was putting on a face every day that this is going to happen, but I didn't know if it was. And I remember in the same month having two of my best client situations happen ever, and both of them had an insurance policy through a company that I knew I could beat. I knew I could beat it, and I knew that my service was going to be better, but most important, the product was better. And so sometimes us as financial people or agents or in our industry, we may think that we're so amazing, but in reality, if the product is better, the product is better. It's not the agent, it's the product. I'm just delivering a better product to you. And I ended up getting in front of these individuals, and both clients had similar stories, but I'll just kind of tell them together. Both of them were leaders in their businesses. Both of them were leaders in their family, leaders in their church. Both of them had a lot of other options. They did not need to do the business with me. And it happened in the same month. It was back-to-back weeks. It made me look like a rock star, but it wasn't me. It was a blessing. God saw that I was faithful. I know it. God saw that I got up every day. God saw that I wasn't lying, cheating, and stealing to people. God saw that I was helping individuals. I even helped a woman that came to our office and said, I'm in need of help. I need you to pay my office rent. And I'll never forget when my brother looked and was like, what are you thinking? Like, we don't have the money for this. And I just felt compelled to help the person. Now, please don't solicit for help like this. I don't have that type of support, but it was at a time of my life where I needed to I needed to get blessed. And so immediately I knew, through my mom taught me this, that I needed to be a blessing to others. Okay. Like it says in the book of Psalm, before I'm going to get blessed, and that it's a blessing to be a blessing to others. And so I wanted a blessing, but I needed to bless others, and I did. And I felt like I was doing my part. I felt like I felt like I was deserving, okay? Not entitled or not like a victim or not crying about it, but I really felt like this could be my turn. And in that month, I'll never forget, these two gentlemen put their trust in me financially. And but I really believe that it wasn't me. There was nothing special about my presentation or appointment or anything. It was literally clients that fell on my lap. And through somebody, one of them, a trainee in my office had a nose surgery. And the nose surgery, had a bandage on his face, and he was an older gentleman. And I'll never forget, he told me, he came to the office and he said, hey, there was a guy that prayed for me in a lobby. And I go, what do you mean he prayed for you? He says he saw my bandage and he prayed for me in the lobby that I would be healed. And then I asked him, would you do an appointment? I ended up at the doorstep of that person that week, who ended up becoming not only a big client, but ended up becoming a mentor, a friend, somebody that I deeply love, somebody that I know their family. And I walked into the house and the person wasn't well received. The person told me, I already have what you're selling. I already have this. I already have that. And I said, well, if you're so sharp and if you're so great, then why don't you have what I have? Because what you have is inferior to what I have. And then in my heart, I was like, why did you just say that? My heart's pounding. And I remember the gentleman's wife. He said, she's like, ooh, honey, he talks like you. I'll never forget it. And then the guy looks at me and he goes, okay, give me something better and I'll do it with you. Boom, boom, boom. That happened. Another house, same situation, back-to-back weeks. I ended up making 6 figures in a month. And it was like, what? How did that happen? I went from being a couple months ago, I'm worried about how I'm going to keep the lights on, to a couple months later, I'm getting what I used to make in a year or 2 years just put into my bank account right away. And it's the industry's a good industry. Our model's a good model. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, but it's none of those things. It's so blessed. so blessed that at a time where you have financial faith, I had financial faith that I got up every day knowing that God would take care of me. From my earlier story, which is the part one of this, this is part two. And the part one, that story made me believe that nope, when I'm down, God's going to figure it out for me. And when I'm down, God's teaching me a lesson, and He wants my faith to deepen before He blesses me. If I didn't have those downs, my faith would never deepen because I would assume that I was just awesome from the start. And sometimes when you're down, you want to be awesome. You want things to be going great. The problem when things are going great is you usually don't learn the lessons that you need to learn to be great. And so allow the process to shape you from within. Allow yourself to be broken down. Allow yourself to go through the experiences to make you great. And Billy Graham says that God can't use you mightily until you've been crushed deeply. And nobody wants to be crushed deeply, but they do want to be used mightily. And if you want to be used mightily in the kingdom of heaven, and if you want to be used mightily and you want to deepen that faith, you're going to have to allow the crushing to take place and have faith and have financial faith during the crushing that God's going to take care of you and God's going to make it work for you. If these are some of the items that you may need to work on, maybe you need to work on your spiritual maturity. Maybe it's your mental mastery. Maybe there's certain areas of your faith that you need to deepen and you need a little bit more from that. I've got a link in the description below about an ebook that I have also, and some additional content and additional material that could help you study. And I want to teach this, what somebody once taught me, that would help you be successful into the future. And I hope that you choose to be a leader for life. I hope you continue on with your deepening of your faith. I hope this story helped you. And if anything that you're going through right now, reach out if you need anything, but go to the link below and take a look at that description and see if that ebook could be best for you. And I hope that you choose to be a leader for life.